Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time of day you're listening to this. I hope it's not 3 a.m., but if it is, that's okay too. I'm Alex. This is the Lost Souls podcast. And today we're talking about loss of control and perfectionism, two things that I heavily struggle with. Then I'm talking about them together because really they're two sides of the same coin. They go hand in hand with each other, right? Because a perfectionist is a perfectionist because they can't stand to lose control, right? And if you can't stand to lose control, there's chances are you're also a perfectionist, right? And so I guess I want to talk about that because it's me and my experience. And sometimes people seem to like the stuff. Some people like when I put stuff out there. It's cool. It's whatever. And it actually builds off like trust before because losing like the last episode, because if it, and shameless plug for that if you actually do want to are interested in this and want to watch stuff. Anyway, so losing control, right? When you trust in something greater than yourself, right? And I don't mean God necessarily, because I can trust in like the universe and I can trust in God. That does not mean that I feel like letting go of control in the world, right? That does not mean that I feel like letting go of control with like people and systems and institutions, because I'm still very wary of those, even if I can trust like the big picture, right? Even if I can trust the big picture, doesn't mean I trust every little picture in between, right? Because sometimes there are foul actors at play, and you need to be aware of them, or you're going to get burned. Anyway, um, that just is what it is, right? I'll stand by it and do that. The world is not a place that is full of people with good intentions. That is the truth. That is the truth. People are self-serving most of the time. That is something people do need to keep in mind, right? Um, so I'm not saying be like open about everything, right? I'm absolutely not saying that. But what I am saying, right, is that sometimes letting go of having to be in control can be helpful because you can let go of stress that way. It's not just when you let go of control, it's not just you letting go of like everything having to be the way you want it to, even though that's what it is, and that's how the perfectionism comes in. Because why do I want everything the way? Why do I want to be able to control things, right? Even if you can't control any outcomes, you still want to be able to control outcomes, right? Or I do. Maybe other people don't, right? I still want to know what happens. Probably in part because certainty, because I want to know what happens. Like I don't want to be caught off guard. I don't want to be blindsided by something and be like, oh my God, I can't, deal with this now. Even if I probably can, it's probably some anxiety, but whatever, right? Right? Because, and here's the thing about when you try to be perfectionist, right? When you try to do everything perfect, you're never going to be perfect. People are never perfect. Things are never perfect. And in fact, some of the most beautiful things ever made are imperfect disasters, right? I'll use an actual example that I believe in because I do like video games. I'm not really talked about that much, but I'm also a gamer among many things. I find myself to be a combination of a lot of different things instead of just one thing in particular. I'm not much of a specialist. I don't much care for specialization because I can go as deep as a specialist is without having to go that deep, if that makes sense. And that's just my opinion on the matter, right? I can gain the knowledge and insight that a specialist has without actually having to devote years and years and years of service to that. Even if it's not recognized that way, I'm satisfied in what I can find. Okay, so, but being generalized and being back to the games, right? One of my favorite, probably my favorite game of all time. I mean, I still play this game to this day, and it is like almost 15 years old at this point, right? Because I like it that much, and I think it's that good of a game. And I don't think something's ever going to come like this after, because I think it was the perfect storm. Because it's not just the gameplay, which is great. It's not just the game is Borderlands 2, right? And anybody who's listening to this and actually kind of knows about Borderlands 2, you are my people. First off, um, among other people. I don't want to like say, oh, well, only these people are people who can listen. To anybody can listen. If you like it, like it. If you don't. I don't care. That's not what I'm putting out here. Anyway, this game will never be made again. This game specifically was this one like flash in the pan. This is what I've come to accept. It's just this flash in the pan that isn't really ever going to come to fruition because the writing was excellent, right? The pacing was excellent, right? If you can see it, you can see the three-act structure, right? And that's the thing. Is some people, this is the thing I'm coming back to now, right? Because now that I'm actually learning a little bit about how to write stories and like theater, especially, it's a really good way because I think video games and theater have a lot more in common because unlike like books, which I do like reading, I like writing books, but you know what's better than having to picture an entire image in your head? Because if you're me, it's fine because I can picture it, but not everybody can do that, right? It's if they can see it physically in front of them, right? That's even better. And if you can make something that, hold on, okay, and if you can make something that, sorry, I got distracted. I do that sometimes. If you can make something which people can see, that they can almost touch, right? And that, with video games is that you're touching the controller, right? And so you feel like an agent in the world, right? That's the advantage to playing video games. You feel like you can be a part of it, or you should feel like you can be a part of it, even if it's not like, you know, whatever, real, right? Even if it's not real, that's the word I was looking for. Even if it's not real, you can still be a part of it. In the same way that, like, so you go to a play, because I've been discovering these like here the past little bit, because these are actually really fun. Yeah, I got to pick up the microphone and screwdriver because I can't pick mine up without the audio going completely crazy and sounding awful like I'm spitting into the mic. So I got my microphone. But the thing about theater that makes it cool, is that you feel like you're there. In the same way that you feel like you're there, it's immersive. It's an immersive experience. In the same way that watching a movie in a movie theater is an immersive experience, because you're sitting there in the rows in this big ass screen in front of you, and the sound. People underestimate how much sound matters, right? I think in theater you can kind of skip on it, because I find myself when I watch theater, I stop paying so much attention to the words, which is crazy for me because I obsess over like language, right? And I can actually just pay attention to. I can listen to what's going on, but I'm paying attention to the action, right? And so when I'm paying attention to the action, right, you can see what's happening. I don't have to just like construct it myself. I can see what's happening, to where even if I didn't have the words there, I guess this is something I realized here recently. Good acting is such that even if I didn't have the words there, you could go to a play in a different language and still enjoy it, because you're enjoying the interactions, right? You're enjoying the stage presence. You're enjoying the actual action happening in front of you. Right, and you can make that better. Sounds will make that better. You can create a better experience with sounds. And it's the same thing for video games, right? The point being, that'll never exist again, right? And it wasn't perfect, right? It's my favorite game, but it's buggy as shit. It has all kinds of problems, right? I mean, you can break the game so easily, and that's also part of the appeal to it, right? The best things that people love so much are imperfect, and they love them despite their imperfections. Sometimes they even love them because of the imperfections, right? Because despite the fact that this thing wasn't so polished that there wasn't a single issue with it, it still had heart and soul to it, because that's what resonates with people. That's what people pick up, even in video games, right? There's a reason when you play a video game online or play a video game that was just like AI, or like thrown together, or slop, or something just to make a cash grab. Why does it feel different than when you play a game that was crafted with purpose, right? Because it was crafted with purpose, and you can tell. It shows up in the work, right? What matters more is how much effort you put into it and how much you care about it, more so than does it check all the boxes, right? Which is true of anything. Right? I think that's a really bad way we went in the world. Is we think that to success or getting somewhere is like just a series of checking boxes, right? Oh, well, you want a good job. What do you do? Well, you need to graduate high school. You need to go to college. You need to get a degree. You need to do internships. You need to do this, and then you'll get the job you want. And it's like that's not how the world works, right? I can't just walk around with a checklist, right? And just because I check off the boxes, it doesn't mean that I've actually done the things, or the things are actually going to take me where I want them to go, where I want to go, right? That's not true. That's just not true, right? But I've also gotten off topic now. But that's what happens here. The point being, you shouldn't try to be perfect. And and honestly, what is perfect, right? Aside from the whole philosophical, like, well, the only perfect thing to have ever existed was the true infinite one all, like the true source, everything that was before there was. That's the only thing that's perfect, right? There was perfection before there was imperfection. But the fact that we exist is proof of the very imperfection, right? And so you can never be perfect, right? Unless you completely collapse the whole universe in on yourself, take everything in, or is pulled back into everything else, and become truly one with God as with everything else does. That's the only way you will ever truly be perfect. And maybe that happens at the end of time. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But the point being is, in your lifetime, you're never going to be perfect, or you're never going to do anything perfect. Even you take painstaking detail. Take even painstaking detail to make sure. Say you're making. Okay, I draw a lot. So say you're making a drawing, right? You're drawing something, right? You can take 7 years if you wanted to. I mean, technically, to make sure that every last line, and every last outline, and every last color, and every bit of it is perfect, right? You could do that. But chances are that you spent so much time obsessing and overanalyzing it instead of just doing what you wanted to do, that people aren't even going to like it when they get done with it, because the perfection is just, it feels almost inauthentic, right? When something is too perfect, it feels like it's not real, right? Because then I think we kind of pick up on this, right? This is like, okay, this is like the nice guy thing, right? Because I say that as somebody who probably was considered a nice guy, right? I have my problems. I have my problems. I'm not going to act like I don't. And I'm pretty much sitting here telling you that I've got problems, and here's what they kind of are, and here's how I'm dealing with them, right? Right, but it's kind of like that. Is that they look so good on the surface? You're like, that can't be right. Or like the people who you see in life, and they're like, they look like they have it all together. They look like they live the perfect life. So they're probably a train wreck. They are probably a train wreck, right? And that's because perfect doesn't exist. You can appear perfect. You can give off the illusion of perfect, right? You can act perfect, but you can't be perfect, right? And so it's about letting go of that need for perfection. And actually, letting go of that need for perfection is the same thing as letting go of control, right? Because if you let go of having to be perfect, you let go of the idea that you are in control of making sure everything works right? Because that's what it comes back to at the end of the day. Because when you want to be in control, it's not that you want everybody to bend to your will and want it to be like a little rigging game. It's that you think, right, on some level, that you have to be responsible for making sure this stuff works out right? That's what perfectionism is. It's all on me, and I have to make sure it's perfect. Because if I don't make sure it's perfect and I don't make sure it works, nobody else is going to, right? And the issue with that is that it's not going to be perfect. People don't expect perfection, and neither should you, right? And so sometimes letting go of that control, the need for control, actually opens you up. Because when you stop taking on other people's problems, when you stop taking responsibility for all the things that go wrong around you and thinking like, hey, I have to turn this into perfection. I can't do this wrong. I have to turn all this. I can't fail. I can't do this, right? Because you got to be perfect, right? That doesn't work. And letting go of that need opens up space to actually live, first of all. But second off, what it will do is it will cut down on the stress that you're feeling. And I'm speaking as somebody who desperately needs to cut out stress or deal with it better, right? Because my blood pressure's through the roof. There's genuine concern that I could have a heart attack or stroke out. That's how high my blood pressure is. And I'm not even 30 years old yet. Yeah, and this is what the world's doing to to people, or maybe just me. Not just be me. I don't know. Or maybe I've just lived a hard life and it's showing now. It's starting to show now that I'm always obsessed that I'm always like worried I'm gonna lose my hair. Yeah, I went through this whole stage when I had really long hair where my hair would fall out, as it does. Like, don't, if just because you have hair falling out of your head doesn't mean you're going bald. Like, I am actually going bald on top, but I can cover that up. Yeah, now, that's weird to say. I'm not even 30 and I'm starting to bald. Although my brother has a receding hairline, he's younger than I am. You know, where was I? Lost control. See, this is what happens. I get off on my little, I go, woo, and then I'm like, where was I before with that? I just kind of got sidetracked. And this is how I pick up on the fact that I get sidetracked so easy. Because if I'm not actually talking and speaking regularly, because even I don't notice it. Man, I really remember where I was at with the loss of control thing. Oh, letting go of it. Letting go of it opens up space, because what you do is you trust other people to deal with this, right? You trust other people, because it's about trust. In order to let go of control, you actually have to be able to trust, right? You actually do. That's the difficult part, right? Because how can I totally and completely trust somebody else? How can I totally and completely trust somebody else if I don't actually know they've got my best interest in heart, right? And that's like a feeling, right? That's like, you can't just like fake that, You can try, or maybe I just got a bullshit detector that can tell. I don't know. There are people who I clock immediately. I'm like, I do not like that person. That person will try to fuck me over the first chance they get, and do not care what it does to me, right? And I can tell it within like as soon as I meet somebody, pretty much, right? If I get a bad feeling about somebody, like, damn, maybe I should avoid them, right? Um, and that is what it is. That just is what it is. But if you let go of it, then you actually get to like not stress about it, and you get to say, hey, I'm not the reason that everything's holding together all the time. Like, sometimes you are. Sometimes you are the backbone. But other times, like, you're not, and you're just thinking you are, right? And so you don't have to be so serious about it, right? You can do a bad job. Here's the thing. If you're listening to this right now, I give you permission to do poorly, right? I don't care what anybody else says. I give you permission to do poorly, because you don't always have to do good all the time. You don't always have to overperform. You don't always have to go the extra mile. Sometimes the bare minimum, and sometimes not even that, is good enough, Not because there's something wrong with you for not pursuing more, but because it saves you energy and peace. Right? If nothing, the bare minimum, if nothing else, and not feeling like you have to go. I know that this the whole culture is go above and beyond, right? Do exactly everything, especially in like labor. Like, oh my gosh, go wild, go wild, go wild. No, no, no. Protect your peace. Right? Just keep yourself from having a heart attack at 40, right? Because if you take on and you think that you got to go above and beyond in everything, you got to push and you got to push and you got to push and take it from somebody who's burnt out from having done that for so long, who literally is going to have to slow down and reorganize his life in a way to where it's gonna creep, right? I'll make progress, but it's gonna creep, and I think that's the only way I can move forward right now. That's where I'm at, right? It's part of the reason I'm doing this, right? I'm trying to work up to things, right? And sometimes that does take time, and that's not comfortable because we want instant results. We want instant gratification, right? We don't want to have to work for anything. Nobody does. Hard work is icky, right? It's like I'm currently a little bit of a bigger man. I would stand up and show you, but there's no point in showing off showing off this body right now. I mean, I actually did get pretty much naked for a complete audience, and it didn't actually bother me as bad as I thought it was going to bother me. I'm starting to find out I like being the center of attention. Hence, why the hell I'm on a camera talking into this microphone or this microphone. It's actually like right. Hold on. Nope, 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 nope. Well, actually, it is right here. I was trying to make it for me, but it's like right here. Although it's flipped. If you think about it, like my left, this is my left. Right, I'm using my right hand. This is my left hand. But even though that's not how it looks for you, right? Although you should know that. I shouldn't have to explain that to people, but it gets me sometimes when I'm doing this. I'm like, wait, that's the wrong hand. I'm like, that's not where that's supposed to be, and I have to remember it's like mirrored, right? I'm off topic again. That's how it goes. Lost control, but it's freeing almost. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at this or that I'm just trying to move forward in it, because if I want to conserve, because here's the other reason for that too. This is also where I was going. Is that if you want to make progress in anything, right? If you actually have things you have goals you want to reach, right? You've got to prioritize them. You know what that means? That means when something which is not those things requests your energy, you don't give it. Right? If it doesn't serve the end that you're trying to seek in some way, shape, form, or fashion, cut it the fuck out. My God, because it's not serving you. Like, you have to get rid of things that don't serve you in life. And I don't mean that like, well, I have to, like, there are things I have to, yeah, there are things you have to do, but minimize the stuff, because if it's not serving you at all, like even like labor, even like a job, right? You work a job because you need money, right? Because I'm finally breaking down and saying, well, I got to figure out some way to work. I got to find out some way for money. Can't make it without it. You literally can't make it without it. And that's the reality of the world. And it's crushing and soul sapping if you let it be. But it is what it is, right? But it does serve you, right? If you're working a job and making money, it does serve you because you need the income, right? So that's not really, you can debate about how often and how much money do I need, how much do I need to work, what's the exact time split here. These are all valid questions. But you do need money. Everybody needs money. And if, some people are, or I struggle to say blessed, because I'm not sure if that's what it is, to not have to, like, worry about that too much, to have people that can support them totally, right? In even like whatever lifestyles they have. Now I'm not talking about people who, like, I'm down on my luck, and the reason I'm making it right now is a lot of help from family, and I mean that's just honest truth. That's just the honest truth right now, right? It is what it is. But I'm not saying necessarily that is like, when I say that, like, oh well, yeah, that's lucky to be able to do that. I'm not going to say I'm not lucky to be able to do that, but I don't know what I'm trying to go. What I was trying to say, like the rich kids who don't have to actually pay for anything, who don't actually have to work for the things they have, and those certainly exist, and those people, that's who I struggle to say are blessed, right? Because yes, they have the advantages, but how'd they get the advantages? Like they're lucky, right? But was it built on blessings or was it built on greed? Because a lot of the people that I see who are spoiled and rich and don't have a lot of money, or have seen before, I'm not saying that everybody I know is like that, and not everybody is like that, especially so in, like, okay, I live in Virginia and I live in Southwest Virginia, so there's a big split between the southern part of Virginia and the northern part of Virginia. Like northern kids are called Nova kids, right? To us, right? We call them Nova kids, right? And Nova kids are typically are higher income, right? Typically they have a lot of the stuff they need provided for. Not always, right? Yeah, I'm not saying like 75% of them are this way. I mean, but enough of them are like that to where they get a rap for it, right? And with everybody else, right? Being stuck up and snobby. These are the people I'm talking about, right? Who I cannot legitimately just say, well, you're blessed. No, I think you got lucky, you know. And yeah, I say that not truly believing in luck is the most, but I don't think it was. Maybe I'm trying to over justify a reason to hate these people or hate on these people. Maybe I shouldn't hate on these people. Maybe that's what I'm going through right now. Maybe I shouldn't even hate on the rich because they didn't choose to be rich. You know, I didn't choose to be poor. They didn't choose to be rich. This is just the lives we have. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's an okay stance to have. You know, maybe. Um, in like 20 minutes. Maybe I'll start cutting these down a little bit to make them more digestible, right? I'm trying to make them more focused instead of just going to the same thing every time. And I think, like, I usually touch on topics related to what I want to, like those things, but I've not went into a full-blown rant yet, you know, about the same things I always do. Because maybe I am changing. Maybe this alone, watching myself talk, is helping me change. I don't know. Maybe it is. But I think I'm going to cut it there. It's a little shorter than usual, but it'll be all right. Um, Thanks for watching, making it this far. Maybe go out there and, you know, be okay with losing control. Be okay with doing something imperfectly, right? Imperfectly. Um, be okay with not doing the best that you can, right? Because not everybody deserves your best effort. Not everything deserves your best effort. You deserve your best effort, not other people. But I've been Alex. This has been the Lost Souls Podcast. And until next time, peace.